The 2020 protests and riots. Protests and police brutality. Opening. Imagine finally getting into your new car after all the money you have invested to fix it up just the way you dreamed of. You're also proud of yourself because you have poured so much of your own blood and sweat into your studies and you made it. You're loyal. As you start on your way back towards going home, you notice police lights turn on behind you. You think you think that they will pass you since you haven't done anything wrong. However, as you pull over, you notice that they also pull over behind you. Before you can react, the officers come out from the vehicle, guns drawn, yelling for you to get out of your vehicle now. You comply with their commands and get out of your car, vehicles above your head, and then lying face first in the door next to the road. The next thing that happens is one of the police officers handcuffs you. And as they take you to the police car, you ask the officer why they are arresting you. One responds, only a drug dealer would have such an expensive car. Unfortunately, we suffer a lot of injustices due to racism, discrimination, social profiling, and prejudice, to name a few. What is racism? Racism is often defined as the belief that race is the defining feature which determines an individual's place in society, and differences in race give certain members of a certain race superiority over members of another race. What is police brutality? Police brutality is defined as the exclusive and illegal use of force on civilians by members of the police department. It is often characterized by immoral and racist members of the police department, with these type of officers often using methods that range from harassment, intimidation, and verbal abuse. Although police brutality is frowned upon, it still occurs to this day, as with the case of George Floyd, an African American who died as a result of police brutality, which has resulted in protests against police brutality, not just in the United States, but in other countries as well. How does racism and police brutality connect? It can be asked how racism is related to police brutality. The connection becomes very clear once research is done on cases of police brutality. It becomes a factor of racial profiling or racism. Racial or ethnic profiling is defined as when a member of law enforcement arrests or harasses a person based only on their appearance and race. When police brutality is fueled by racism, the result is the illegal and immoral silencing of a group of people by use of violence. A well-known example of this is the brutality uh, on the Bloody Sunday of the March from Selma to Montgomery by Martin Luther King Jr. and his group. The event was covered by various news channels, which resulted in the following comments being broadcasted on television unfiltered and uncensored. George Floyd a victim. The main reason why I am writing this speech is because of the riots that are a result of the death of George Floyd. The protest started after the death of George Floyd on May 25th. He died as a result of a police officer placing his knee against his throat, suffocating him slowly. The reason for George Floyd ending up in police custody was a result of paying for cigarettes with a counterfeit $20 bill. The police were caught by the owner of the store after Floyd refused to go back into the store. What does a police officer stand for? Although there are many reasons why a person would want to become a police officer or a member of law enforcement, the goal and duty of a police officer are set in stone. Thanks to the University of North Carolina of Chapel Hill, the duties and expectations of a police officer are very clear. According to the Officer Expectations and Duties tab, we can see just what is expected of a police officer by a police training academy. The duties of an officer are as listed: protection of life and property through the enforcement of law and regulation, responding to calls for an officer, and to prepare a written report of investigations and activities. Movements like the Black Lives Matter. The civil rights movement has had a long history in America, and as a result, there have been many movements focused on restoring the rights of African Americans and to fight the injustice that many face as a result of racial discrimination. One of these organizations is Black Lives Matter, a movement that was based on such matters. However, Black Lives Matter is not nor the only one. One movement based on the civil rights movement was the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, an organization once led by Dr. Martin Luther King. This organization is similar to Black Lives Matter, however, it is more focused on non-violent protesting. Personal opinion. It is my personal opinion that although protesting is justified, it is when violence erupts as a result from protesting and results in the pain of others that these protests are no longer justified. It is my opinion that a person can protest against the injustices, against racism, segregation, and discrimination without the need for violence. One person who I consider a role model personally is Martin Luther King Jr. I believe his method of nonviolent protest against injustice and racism is something that must be considered when a person protests against racism and discrimination. I believe that in order to make a real change in the world, to prove in order to prove that we can all coexist and live equally. Closing. I give my condolences to George Floyd and all those who have passed away as a result of violence brought on by racism and segregation. To those that have died because of racist and the crimes that have been committed by others to take away their human rights and to try to make them less human. That being said, I am thankful the recent protests have brought to light that even though it has been 2 decades since the Civil War, we are still struggling with racism and segregation in our country, which was founded on the principles of equality among all men. And even when Martin Luther King Jr. fought for rights for African Americans in the 60s, there is still racism, not just in private groups but also in the government. However, I do not think that it is right to excuse the violence caused by protesting turned into rioting, which affects everyone. These are my sources. The end.